Welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. First one in, I think, like 2 months. Only because the last movie I saw that I did this for was Loose. Because I've been busy. As you can hear, I'm in a parking lot again because I've just seen a movie. That movie is Joker. And the reason why I saw Joker is because I have enough people who call me a shill for Disney. And I wanted to do Joker before I did anything else, so it didn't seem like I was being unfair, and skipping Joker for whatever reason. So I wanted to get Joker out of the way and not forget about Joker, if for no other reason than to, have Joker under the belt, and complete it. Now, here's the thing. I'm conflicted about this movie, because I really love the movie. It's fantastic. It's very well shot. The story's great. The cinematography is amazing. Joaquin Phoenix puts on a great performance in the movie. You feel everything he does. I don't have an issue with the politics or anything like that, because that was something that a lot of people on the internet were talking about, is that the politics in the movie could give rise to people who feel the way the Joker does, doing what the Joker does in the movie. And I feel that that's not really a concern that I should have when I'm reviewing the movie. And again, I just saw the movie today. It's October 22nd. I'm just now seeing the movie, not because I was skipping it for any reason. It's just New York Comic Con happened the weekend it came out, and I was, at New York Comic Con, and then I was busy, and finally got a chance to see it today. But here's my issue with the movie. Okay? Number one, if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie, because the movie's fantastic. My issue with the movie is not going to affect my rating of the movie, because it's not like when I saw The Last Jedi, my criticisms of, you can criticize the plot of the movie, and you can criticize the portrayal of characters and the portrayal of the way and what you like about it in that way. But if you don't like the way the character's portrayed, then that's not a criticism of the movie. It's a criticism of your, for lack of a better word, headcanon of how the character should be at that point. And that's what this is. And for me, I have never quite been a fan of this style Joker. I've never been a fan of the anarchist Joker, the Joker who commits, who does like this. I liked Cesar Romero's Joker. I like the clown prince of crime, and even to an extent, I like that Jared Leto's Joker kind of did that. He was a criminal who wasn't just out to kind of prove, who just, he wasn't the anarchist of Heath Ledger. And that's not to say Heath Ledger's performance wasn't good. Heath Ledger's performance was tremendous. And The Dark Knight is probably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. It's just, I don't like that. I don't like that interpretation of the character. The interpretation of the character that I like, and I really like when they do this on the, is he's a themed mob boss. Jack Nicholson's Joker. And I think that you could have done a Joker origin movie if that's what you really wanted to do, which here, this movie works very well. And you can feel why he becomes the Joker in this movie. But I feel like you could have done a mix of The Killing Joke, where he's a failed stand-up comedian, with, he's a drug dealer, or he's some kind of low-level mob boss who slowly goes through the ranks, kind of like Goodfellas in a way. And that's what I was kind of when I heard that Scorsese was going to be in a producing role on this movie, was going to have some kind of involvement in this movie, I knew it was going to go one of two ways. He was either going to go the taxi driver route, which is what this movie did, or was going to go the Goodfellas route, which is what it didn't do, which I probably would have preferred. But that didn't harm my liking of the movie. And I think that's something that we need to really get away from when we're talking about movie reviewing, is interpretation of a character should not be harming the way you view the movie. If you don't agree with the character's interpretation, that doesn't change, that shouldn't change the movie and how you, because the movie's the movie. And at the end of the day, movie reviewing is subjective, but what the objective fact of what you have is the movie itself is the fact. What we have is what we can do. Saying I would have done it differently, to an extent you can do. For The Last Jedi is the one I'm going to use as an example here, because The Last Jedi gets a lot of flack for its choices that are made, particularly with Luke and with all of that. Like, you can have an issue with the fact that you can kind of entirely remove Canto Bight through a pretty easy, like, that sequence. I get why that sequence is there. I understand the purpose of the sequence in the movie. The movie could have done a better job justifying the existence of the sequence, when, at the end of the day, if you're just gonna have, if you're just gonna have him not, if the code breaker is not gonna be the one they went there for initially, and it's gonna be this gray person, you could have had him be a stowaway on the Resistance ship, and, or he could have been a prisoner of the Resistance that could do it. It would have made the treachery a little bit less impactful, and it would have changed the character a little bit, but they could have justified going to Canto Bight a little more. That's a plot-based concern that's, with the movie. Saying you don't like how Luke's portrayed, you don't like what Luke's done, even though it's in line with every other Jedi who has one minor setback in their entire life. It's kind of, and it is, we're not going to get into that though. That's not a criticism of the movie. That's a criticism that it doesn't line up with your interpretation. And that's what I'm saying about Joker, is that while I would have preferred that they went a different route with the movie, and the movie wasn't about what it was, I don't have an issue with the fact that it was about what it was. And I can't sit here and say, well, if I made the movie, I would have done it differently. And if I'm going to do a Joker origin, I'm going to do Crime Lord Joker, not Anarchist Joker. And that's not a concern that's not something that I can take off points for, because that's my interpretation of the character over Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix's interpretation of the character. We need to rate the movie based on Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix's interpretation of the character. And what happened there. And what they did with it was tremendous. And this is a fantastic movie. It is hands down the best superhero or comic book media of the year. It's like this, then I would say Far From Home, then Shazam, then Endgame. Like, it's a really good movie, and I'm not gonna sit here and take from it, because it's not what I would have done. Nor am I gonna take from it saying, oh, it might incite people to commit heinous acts of violence, when, number one, it hasn't. Number two, that has nothing to do with the movie itself. Like, we can't sit here and criticize the movie for the message it sends and say, oh, it might commit a crime. Like, who cares? Like, that's, at the end of the day, that's not what the movie is, And the thing is, a lot of people were saying it's going to portray... I don't see this movie and see them portraying... Like, he's portrayed as sympathetic. You can sympathize with him, but he's not portrayed as a hero. Like, he's not a good guy because he does what he does. It's kind of like you can understand how he got to that point. You can see it and you can be like, okay, I see how point A leads to point B to point C to point D, but he's not portrayed as doing the right... Like, I get why he got this warped mindset, and I get why he did this. I going A, B, C, and D is, I see how he got there, but I don't agree with it. And he's not in the right for doing it. And that's the key difference here that isn't really being articulated. It's a difference between protagonist and hero, where the two terms are used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. If someone's the protagonist of a story, that just means they're the main character. And the antagonist is whatever they're against. So in this case, he's not the antagonist like he would be in The Dark Knight or in Batman or in Batman 66. He is the protagonist of the story because it's the origin of the Joker. But he's not the hero. He's the hero for his followers. He's the hero for that subsection of Gotham City, but he's not the hero. He's not who we're supposed to look to in this. He's not even an anti-hero in that regard. He's still a villain. but he's the protagonist of the story. That's the key difference that really isn't being articulated here. It's kind of what happens when you dilute it down and simplify the explanation of what the movie is. So we'll wrap up there for today. The next movie I have on my itinerary is, I have The Rise of Skywalker. I have a ticket for The Rise of Skywalker. I'm going to be going on Thursday night to a 6 o'clock showing. I got into that before it filled up, fortunately. And I think The Lighthouse is the next one on my itinerary. I think I'm seeing that on Saturday night. So The Lighthouse will be the next movie that I discuss. The 27th? Whatever day the 27th is, I have The Lighthouse I have a ticket for. Sunday at 7 p.m. The Lighthouse. Alright. And then I might see something Saturday night too. I'm not sure yet. I'll take a look at what's going on and what showings are happening, because sometimes AMC's been screwing up lately. So we'll wrap up there for today. We'll be back on definitely Sunday with The Lighthouse. If not Sunday, maybe Saturday. Well, definitely Sunday, but maybe also an episode on Saturday on top of that. And we'll be back later this week on 30-minute reviews. We're going to dissect the Rise of Skywalker trailer. We're going to talk about Frankenstein that won the poll on our Twitter account at 30min review. So we're going to be talking about Frankenstein. We're going to be talking about Dark Knight's Metal, and we have a bunch of other cool things happening on that episode. So we'll be back with that later this week. Have a great rest of your week.